Hi everyone, I'm live. How are we doing today? It's the first day of the week, of the working week in March, and I hope we're doing well. Everything is going on fine. I'm fine. I had a busy morning, sort of, but yeah, I'm here. I'm happy I'm here. So, my tea for this reading today, before I continue, yes, let me just say there's the book we're reading, Scent of Water. We are now in chapter 33, and I'll be reading chapter 33 to 36. But before I do that, yes, I have a tea. My tea for today is on training. My tea for today is on training. Whatever you're doing for yourself, whatever you're learning, whatever your craft, your passion, especially for writers, you should train in your craft. It's very, very important to learn how to write if you haven't done it yet. Many years ago, I'm talking 20 years ago, I decided I wanted to learn how to write. I had started writing already. I had some, maybe like you can say, success in writing, and people liked my writing, and it was, I was on it. I think I'd written two books by that time, and I wanted to learn how to write. So I started, you know, looking for where to learn how to write. And honestly, in all sincerity, my goal for learning was because I wanted to teach writing. I was passionate about that. I thought it was something I wanted to do. And I was like, how am I going to teach something that I don't even know how it is taught? Because I was never taught. So I went looking. My sister found Jerry B. Jenkins for me. I discovered he had a guild where they taught writing. So I went in for 4 years of training. Believe you me, what I came out with is what I am today, and what I'm still training, I'm still learning, because learning is a continuous thing. So my tea is that if you are a writer, you have never trained or learned the craft, go learn it. And I have good news for you. I am going to be putting my courses together. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to be putting courses together that will help you from scratch. If you have never even written anything before, if you've been writing and you just need to brush up, if you just want to know what is going on, what about different topics, I'm going to be putting out a very comprehensive course, and I'm going to break it into bits. So if you know how to do one thing, but you don't know how to do the other thing, then you will be able to, just pick what you need, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to make my courses like a supermarket that you walk into, pick what you need, and go. And if you want more, you can always come back for more. And I am so excited about that. Now, the tea again is that you should, hone your skills, learn your skill, know your trade very well, learn from people who've done it before, who know more about it, so that you will always be on the cutting edge. Yes, and that's it. Okay, let's start reading. I have water alone here with me today. Mm, I never liked water, but now I do, with my bottle to refill. So we're going to start right now. Let's dig in. Chapter 33. Carlo paused and breathed in. He needed to control his words and say the right things here. So, what are you saying? He asked in a manufactured, calm voice. I mean, there was no way she could put it better. My husband is a madman. It gets worse every day. The more reason, he said between his teeth. He hits you, abuses you. He loved this woman. Why couldn't she see it? I don't know what I'll do the next time I see your face, Sola. Believe me, darling, that man is pushing me to the wall. I owe him. I have to. You don't have to. Anything. He beat out. Think for one moment about yourself, your own life. For long, you've simply existed. You have to start living. Please. What about our plans, our future? Are you thinking about our plans? Going away, resettling, starting over? I think about us every day. It's what keeps me sane. Then leave. Please. You don't understand. I do. Damn it. He cursed. He hated to curse around her. It was impolite, disrespectful. It's only because I understand it perfectly. He slammed the phone and muttered a string of dirty words. She was driving him crazy. Business had been slow because of her. His latest customers complained he was distracted, and it was all because of her. He wanted to go back to living decently. He would leave this job because of her, relocate, and do anything, if only. Carlo Ahimagwe had improvised a great deal in his life. He had changed his name and identity so many times he made it a point of duty to rehearse his true personality so as not to forget it entirely. Stating, Starting with his very origin, his mother, Stella, had left him with the choices open to him. There were only two anyway, either live or die. Both ways were tragedies he was not ready to oblige. If he decided to leave it, he would have to constantly look over his shoulder. If he decided to die, then he would simply reveal who he was. That was not the opinion, the option. Living, yes, but not like this. Carlo was born to wealthy parents. His father had been a dentist who treated top government officials home and abroad. They lived in a beautiful, large house in the denser parts of the highbrow streets of Riyadh, the beautiful and expansive capital of Saudi Arabia. Life was good. His mother worked as an auxiliary nurse and earned 10 times what nursing matrons earned in Nigeria. There was nothing parsimonious in their lives. Though born in Nigeria, Carlo, named Sheye at birth, had the dual citizenship of Britain and Nigeria. As the only child of his parents, he enjoyed the best of everything. He attended the best schools in Riyadh and they catered for his every need. He was a typical golden boy. His father was so good with his job that he was recalled home by the president and offered the job of the Minister of Health. He refused blatantly. He was not born to be a leader in that sort of way. He was too young to retire in active practice and he wanted to continue in his job. He had tight plans for the future he wasn't ready to sacrifice. He had a string of excuses, and as they were discredited, he launched new ones. The case was sealed, it was a tight no. He had practiced dental medicine for 26 years. He was happy with his career. He hoped to practice for another 10 years and then stop working and go back home to enjoy retirement peacefully. He had made more than enough money to live out his days in peace. He didn't need a political appointment, especially in a country like his own. He was a man of deep moral convictions and intelligence. He needed no one to tell him it was a death trap. Once the man who was the best man at his wedding was broke, and though money was not directly offered, he had preferred a solution that was very rewarding. It was this best man that had lobbied to get him the top job. He felt no remorse turning it down. It wasn't his destiny. Another man was appointed as the Minister of Health, and Carlo's father heaved a heavy sigh, but it was short lived. The incumbent was murdered in cold blood a few months after entering office, and the pressure came back on. Though he knew who was behind all the pressure, Carlos' father had indulged his friend. He was offered to be paid in hard currency, landed properties were acquired for him, and a hospital plan was brought to him. It had been his dream to have a good hospital in his hometown after retirement. Carlo, who had just graduated in law from the university, was contemplating whether or not to go to law school in Nigeria or travel to Britain and begin his career as a lawyer. His father favored the former, a true patriot. His mother favored the latter, a core realist. One of the days before his decision was made, he came in from visiting friends and overheard the urgent voices of his parents. I'm not going to sit here and watch you ruin Sheye. The boy has his own life to live. His mother spoke with a taut voice. Of course, and I'm not about to disrupt it. If you are going to keep stressing me about taking the appointment at home, then there is only one condition, and that's the one I've spoken. Why are you such a fool, Kenny? Why are you so blind to the truth, to reality? If you don't take the job, they'll kill you. Do you know how much these people have spent lobbying here and there for you? Did I send them to do it? No, you did not. And that's why they'll kill you, and your whole family will be destroyed. Not as though you are concerned about family. You love the glamour and the allure of public office. You want to be known and respected for being a minister's wife. And there is nothing wrong with that. Is it now that all our labor in this foreign country is finally being noticed at all that you will balk and shy away? Shying away from reaping the fruit of your labor is only a fool's humility. You are a fool, Kenny, she said smugly. Thank you. Carlo had pressed himself against the wall and painfully listened out his parents' verbal assault on each other. That evening at dinner, his father announced his decision to move back to Nigeria and accept the post of Minister of Health. He had a new vision for the job. He intended to build a clinic in every community in Nigeria. He planned a complete overhaul for all federal hospitals. He planned to build specialist hospitals in every state capital. His dreams were quite big. Carlo wondered why his mother showed little or no excitement. He thought that it was what she wanted. The family moved to Abuja, and Carlo's mother entered the high society scene immediately. Carlo, who'd been thinking seriously of living in Britain, suddenly found himself in the Nigerian law school. His mother chided him for not being grateful, saying that there were tons of his mates still waiting to get admission. They had used influence to get him a placement on the Abuja campus. There, Carlo lived like a king. He never knew he was the sacrifice his mother made to come back home. Money is not everything. There is power. And higher than that level, there is influence, his mother said often. They still were very rich, though richer. More importantly, they had power and influence. It was one big roller coaster. Even Carlo's father began to enjoy it. He was in office for 2.5 years, of which he tried his best to fulfill his vision. It was like swimming against the current. He came knuckle to knuckle with high powers. His hopes to improve living conditions of health workers were met constantly with opposition by some of the corrupt union leaders of the same health workers. By the end of that tenure, he had entered the flow and he lobbied to be recalled when the new government came in. Carlo's father got his wishes. In a celebration dinner organized for him, he stated that it was a fresh opportunity to make the lives of Nigerians better and healthier. He never got to do any of the things he promised. The inside story was a very pathetic one. Instead of using public funds for public use, the multi-millions were diverted into private accounts. Partly, Stella blamed herself. She had developed such a mad craving for gold and material wealth that 3 rooms in the house tolerated her possessions. She was so paranoid about her wardrobe that she got a wardrobe attendant whose job was the Herculean task of cataloging and recording of wardrobe use. Gradually, Kenny got caught in the drift. He lavished gifts on people and lived recklessly. 4 years of the tenure passed, and a surprising twist brought in an entirely new government, which decided to probe all former corrupt public servants. Suddenly, 2 past presidents had been sent into the streets absolutely homeless. A few governors were in jail, and a lot more people were rushing to own up and hand over stolen property to avoid court procedures. Kenny knew the heat was on and it would get to him. He fled the country alone, deserting the family he loved dearly. Stella and Carlo never heard of him again. It was their guess that he was probably hiding in a Middle Eastern country and quietly practicing his medicine. Before Stella and Carlo, who was now a big businessman in Lagos, could suspect anyone would look for them, Stella was arrested, charged, and sentenced to 10 years in prison. When the arrest was made and the house searched, all the travel documents in the house were taken. Suddenly, Carlo, the Nigerian Briton, was in hiding, afraid that the evil he perpetrated to make money with his father would be revealed and he would be whisked away. He was never declared wanted, and that made the whole situation worse. He wasn't sure if they would pick him up on the street or not. The day Stella was arrested, he'd been out of town. She had requested to make a call, and it was to him. Don't come back to Lagos. Disappear. They are picking people up, please, she had whispered urgently. He didn't need to ask what had happened. They'd seen wives, children, and relations of public servants probed and jailed just for partaking in the stolen wealth of the nation. It was a revolution of another kind. It was the government of the underprivileged fighting against the bourgeoisie. Carlo did return to Lagos, but under the cover of darkness. His mother had called once more and given him details of her incarceration. It was a hopeless situation, and she knew they would want to come for him. He'd been warned not to go to his business premises because it had been sealed off and he could be arrested there. For the first time in his entire life, Carlo entered a night bus so he could reach Lagos in the wee hours of the day. He headed straight to Oluwole, a street notorious for forgeries and phony deals. He needed a new identity, and that was the place for it. It was there he met Constantine, aka Cos. Cos was a renowned criminal. Through him, many had gone to jail, but not him. In his slim office with a small table and chair in Oluwole, his registered business was legal. He sold Richard cards and made prepaid phone calls. But under the seat were tons of evil. He networked criminals on an international level. Cos was your corporate Anini. He wore simple, cheap suits to work and tried to present he was important, the same way a madman addressed passers-by. In fact, he was no mean man. His family lived in London and he vacationed at least twice a year in any country of his choice. He was Carlos's first mate in Uluwole. A slight man in frame, the heavily built Carlo had only asked to make a call. After the call, Carlo had asked where he could make an ID card. His simple question sounded like codes to curse and open the can of worms. If you are trying to change your identity, you need more than a new ID. You need to get rid of that stuff down there. Cause jabbed at the roll of flesh on Carlos's midrib. And you need a bath, he added playfully. The name is Constantine, but friends call me Cos. Chapter 34. Mike's first port of call was the house on Tony Street, Ikeja, Lagos. Sandra's mother was shelling melon seeds in front of the house. He maneuvered the rental car into the compound and parked right in front of the first of the four flats he'd built. It was a sturdy one-story twin building with four apartments, a part of Mike's settlement plan for his parents-in-law. Mike now guessed it hadn't been enough for them. Built in a very modern style with a porch and one living room adjoined to the dining room, Mike had furnished Sandra's parents' flat with everything state of art, including wrought iron furniture, king size beds in every room, air conditioners, television sets, and carpeted floors. He'd spent much more than he did on his own parents. Sandra's mother stood up quickly as he got out of the car. She was a rotund woman with a sunburned and blackened face, a result of bleaching her skin. Sandra was a carbon copy of her mother, only that Sandra maintained a slim stature like her father. Hey, oh, Michael, ọmọ mi, káàbọ̀. She did a small dance with the tray of melon still in her hand. Good afternoon, ma. Mike bowed. Is Ayo ready? He asked stiffly. Ayo, ready? Come inside. Sandra just left now, but she'll soon be back. She told us everything. Oh, I thank God for everything. God has seen our hearts. She moved to hug him. Mike put his hands out to the bar. Come inside, she said cheerfully and turned to go in. Wait, ma. I asked a question. Ayo should be back from school. Is he? Of course, come and relax. Sandra will soon come back. I want to see my son now. Ah, Michael, are we quarreling? Please bring my son now. Pack all his things. I'm living with him now, ma. Mike said between his teeth. Where are you staying so I can tell Sandra to check on you? I'm staying at Federal Prison Hotel, room CM 1106. I'm waiting for Ayo. Sandra's mother was alone with Ayo in the house. She dropped the tray of melon on the center table inside the sitting room and stood alone, thinking what she would do. Was she to release Ayo to his father? Sandra had dumped the boy on them for almost 4 years, but had told them ever since not to disclose his whereabouts to Mike's family. Then she had started philandering Mike's wealth and living like a rich widow. No one had thought Mike would come out of prison. Even Sandra had assured them it was all part of the plan why the case had been wrapped up quickly. And Mike had been treated like a political prisoner, tried in one state and incarcerated far away in another. Cross River State. Sandra's mother had thought it was Carlos, but she had taken part in the sharing of Mike's properties. She turned and looked around, confused. Everywhere she looked spelt Mike's wealth. She wished her husband was home, but he had gone out to check pool results. Once upon a time, they had suffered hunger and sickness because Sandra's father invested all his life savings in alcohol and pool to douse the effect of its disgraceful removal from public office. Sandra had gone into prostitution, her brothers duping. All that had changed when Mike entered their family. Even now, Sandra's father could not afford to lose money at the pools. They were landlords on Oh, Sandra's father could afford to lose money at the pools. They were landlords on Tony Street. Ayodimeji was a very bright boy, but he had been treated like a prisoner, never allowed to play outside school. He had never been told the truth about his father. They told him Mike died. Well, this is the least I can do for him, she shrugged and went in to get Ayo. When the boy emerged, Mike's heart did a somersault. The boy was so big and a reminder of the one he'd lost. He was now 6 years old. Sandra's mother carried a large traveling bag in one hand and held the boy in the other. Are you sure you will not enter the house and maybe eat something? She asked. No, Mike said, his gaze fixed on his son. Ayodimeji, go and meet your daddy. She looked at the boy. Ayo returned his father's gaze, unintimidated. Mike could not read his mind. The boy stood still, and Mike made the move. He took the bag from his mother-in-law and took it back to the car. Ayo followed without a word. Tell your granny goodbye, Mike said softly. Mama, goodbye, the boy said stiffly and climbed into the car beside his father. Sandra's mother watched the car drive off with mixed feelings. She kept telling herself she had done the right thing. Everything had happened so fast, and no one had told her he would come. Sandra was preparing to go back to the States anyway. She had no plans for the boy. She was content with sending money for his fees and upkeep. And if the boy's father wanted him, why not? Sandra's mother was still moping about her decision when Sandra came back from confirming her ticket. She went berserk and went right out to find Mike at the Federal Palace Hotel. To her dismay, there was no registered Mike Dabi in the guest list, no room number such as CM1106, and no 6-year-old boy with an adult man. I'm going to take a break, just 1 minute or 2 minutes. Take some water. And just step out for 1 minute. I'll be right back. Back. Okay. All right. Grabbing my book. Drink some more water. Water. Okay. Chapter 35. Mike drove into Tantalizers on Okwebi Road and placed his order. I was quiet and sulking. Though he said he would not eat anything, Mike bought meat pie, scotch egg, and canned juice for him. The boy munched hungrily away, and Mike began to make his first set of calls. Brosco was his tailor and had been all through his millionaire years. Though he wasn't sure whom to trust, he'd helped Brosco virtually from scratch. He felt the young man who owed him one. Hello, is this Brosco? Yeah, man. Oga Mike, is it you? I didn't delete your number, but every time I called, it wasn't picked. Oga Mike, Brosco, it's me. Oh God, where are you? Are you in town? The other man asked excitedly. Later in his 3-bedroom apartment, of which he used 2 rooms as workshop, Mike caught up on events that he'd missed. Ayo, who'd spoken little or nothing to his father, slept peacefully on the double bed in Brosco's room. Mike had never been to Brosco's house and seeing it, knew it would be inconveniencing the young man to stay with him. But Brosco had insisted he spend the night. He had a list of 10 people he felt he could stay with. He'd placed Brosco as number one. Now that was out, he would call his number two in the morning. He'd prepared a supplementary list of another 10 people who owed him a favor in case the first 10 failed. Is Alariwo still governor? Mike asked. No, but he's a big man in Abuja now. He's always in the news or in president's entourage. I don't know his post. Brosco said, looking at the man who'd helped him climb. Roscoe and Mike's chance meeting took place when he followed his uncle on a house hunt to Mike's chic office, and after deliberating, his uncle in passing told Mike that Brosco was a tailor. You should do something for me sometime, Mike said lightly, but Brosco saw an opportunity. Mike was a big boy. His clientele had until then been classified with university students and applicants. He didn't even have a shop of his own. He rented part of another tailor's shop, and that had not helped his trade. Competition was very stiff, and his customers owed a lot. He knew Mike would forget the statement as soon as he left, so he made a kaftan of stiff voile, a very expensive material from his own limited finance, and took it to Mike. Mike was so impressed by not only the style and perfection of the kaftan, but the idea the boy had. He ordered 10 more, though he had no need of it, and took Brosco to meet his friends. Within 3 months, Brosco had a shop of his own, a living apartment of his own, and a few big customers on his list. Mike had seen himself a few years earlier in the struggling young university graduate uh, of English language and literary studies. He'd not gotten a job with his degree and had pursued a passion he had, just like Brosco. Okay, so anything new? Who are the big shots around? Do you have new clients? They talked late into the night and slept just before dawn. They were both up early and prepared for the day. Mike got a call from Effiong on the phone he'd given him. Hey, hi, how is life on the outside? Effiong teased slightly. Better than on the inside. Mike laughed at the joke. There was really no comparison. No life on the inside, life was on the outside. I got a call from a lady last night. She said you should call her and that you probably don't know her, but she was your client. You sold a house for her mother some years ago. I gave her your number, but she asked that I give you hers. If you dictated the number. So what's new with you? Lots. I got my son back. That's the most important now. That's great. I'm happy for you. How's Esam? She's good. Told Amma you sent lots of credit to her. She was excited about it. She should call and say thank you. Give her time. Esam turned the corner with Dr. James, the consultant pediatric surgeon who she had been attached to for the past 3 months as part of her rotations to become a fellow of the West African College of Surgeons. He had noticed how hardworking she was, how she had her stuff at her fingertips, and how determined she was to impress. It had been a gruesome week, what with all the academia she had to immerse in. The day was warm right from the morning. The sun was bright and shiny and promised to unleash in its full glory. The students on the rounds today had gathered religiously with their lab coats and folders clung to their chests and rucksacks hanging from their backs like a second skin. Sometimes Esam remembered her own days as an undergraduate. She always longed to be in the theatre. Her face had once been hungry like these faces, but in medicine there is no end. You keep learning, keep being hungry to know more. Science keeps changing, discoveries continue to be made. She was just as eager today as any of the students who had never even worked for one day as healers. Today, like all other Wednesdays, Dr. James had a scheduled surgery. He went over the usual questions with her. Have we done all investigations yet? Yet? Chief, we have. So, what was the urinalysis like? Normal. And the full blood count? PCV was good at 38%, the white cell count was 7.2, and differentials all within normal. So we have nothing to worry about, he responded, pleased at how she could always be counted upon to oversee things in the unit. He went on, we have the assent signed, and the anesthetists think she's fit for surgery. ASA 3. Okay. He really had nothing else to ask her, and she would have indulged in her other preoccupations, thoughts that had suddenly taken a more significantly secure space in her mind. The dream, the prisoner. James's voice jolted her reverie. So, what did we say we were doing again today? The question was meant for the 20 something students that now crowded them. A herniatomy. What else could be done in treatment of a hernia? He asked the question every average medical clinical student could answer, as there was nothing she could think of which she would falter in. A herniorrhaphy? one of the female students said tentatively. Dr. James turned to look at Esam and she nodded confidently. The other thing that could be done, which would mean a repair of the posterior wall of the inguinal canal, assuming the hernia was protruding through that, she stated. Go ahead, he said slowly. Her reply was an almost programmed routine answer, and she was almost sure he was only half listening. Considering the age of this child, the anterior and posterior rings are opposed, leaving no posterior wall. Hence, all that will be required will be an excision of the hernial sac, a herniatomy. Well said, he clapped. So, how would you like to assist me through the whole procedure? Okay, by me, she shrugged with a smile as they reached the entrance of the theater. Some of the students murmured. They were semi finalists, and as usual, half of them were sure to drop from continuing into the theater. It had always puzzled Esther when some of her classmates shied away from the theater. She had craved for it. Still does. Then let's do it that way. They stepped into the main operating theater, ditching more than half of the students at the entrance and wishing she could just as easily ditch the only creature who'd occupied her thoughts day and night. Mike called the number Effium gave him. It was picked up after the second ring. Hello, my name is Michael Dabi. Hello, Mr. Dabi. My name is Adaobi Okoro. You don't know me, but you sold my parents' home a few years ago. We came back to thank you with a check for 2 million naira. She sounded uncomfortable mentioning the money. It wasn't the fattest check he'd ever received as a gift, but it definitely was in the range. I couldn't forget such a gift or the givers. How are you? Mike said cheerfully. Very fine. I'm calling about an offer my sisters and I wanted to make you, she said. An offer? That sounded good. Mike had sold a house worth 150 million naira for them before, but he wasn't sure he could jump back into the market just yet. The business terrain had never been so easy. Okay, I'm all ears. We heard about your case and followed it in the news, she started. Oh, yeah, it really was unfortunate. So, mother said we had to do something about it to help. Can we meet somewhere to discuss this? Are you back in Lagos? Yeah, I'm back in Lagos, but I rather we discuss on the phone. I'm not just mobile yet, so my movement is a bit limited. Okay, well, this was all just mother's suggestion. Adelby sounded awkward. Mike couldn't guess what she had to say. We thought you might need good house cooking, you know. She chuckled. As a matter of fact, I would like us to meet to discuss that very cogent matter, Mike said, laughing. Mother thought you would. So they decided to meet immediately in their mother's house at Dolphin Estate. Adelby, the only spinster of the three girls, stayed with their mother in the four-bedroom duplex with a housekeeper and cook. Adobe worked with First Bank and was not at home by the time Mike arrived with Ayo. The stately Mrs. Okoro not only offered a sumptuous breakfast to the Dabbies, but also gave them her guest room for as long as they wished. Let me drink water. Let me drink water. Mm. So let's move on. Chapter 36. Sandra paced up and down the marble floor, her glass slippers making the co sound. Her restlessness was upsetting everyone. It had been a month since she postponed her trip indefinitely to find Mike and Ayo. Her patience had grown thin and she was ready to give up. Her husband, Joe Lee, was upset with her and had threatened to travel down to Nigeria to fetch her. Life had not been too easy, and she'd married him only to maintain the lusty desire to remain in status quo. She'd never been able to work for long on anything, and after disposing of Mike's properties, she began to realize her mistakes. What she kept for herself had not been put to productive use and had finished less than 2 years later. And her chief counsel was her young uncle, Femi Williams, now in his mansion. She was ready to straddle him with the responsibility of finding Mike and her son. Her main problem was not the boy anyway. Her problem was Mike. She wanted him back. And she had hoped to use Ayo as bait. She wondered who had told him the boy was at Towing Street. She had told her mother and others not to let him know if he came asking, but according to her mother, he'd come sure that the boy was with them. Sandra, you have to learn to relax and give time to chance, Femi said, sipping pink lady from a wine glass. Time, uncle. One more time do I have? Jolie is over there in Hong Kong, throwing brimstones and fire, threatening all sorts of things. Mike is here at large. Even his mother doesn't know where he is, Sandra yelled. Arika sat on the sofa, hugging a throw pillow, sipping iced tea from a tall glass, flipping through Brine magazine, and pretending she didn't hear a word of what they were saying. Yelling on the rooftop is not going to help find him. Besides, you have to decide what you really want, Femi said coolly. He was tired of Sanders ranting. For crying out loud, he was no longer gaining anything from her. Her influence did him no special good, and her Chinko husband was a tight fisted bull. The first thing he did was place her on stiff allowance, and he preferred to do business with his fellow Chinese. Whatever he and Femi had now was still hanging on old goodwill from Mike. He couldn't admit even to himself that he regretted what he did to Mike, jumping in at his time of need and practically ruining him. He prayed Mike would never discover the truth. But with Sandra falling apart and falling all over him, she looked ready to confess. She was back to being the sickening mosquito he needed to sort of. I know what I want, Uncle. Her expensive dangling gold earrings flipped all over her face as she shook her head. I'm not confused. I want my husband. Which one? Mike, of course. Jolie is an apology of a man. I told him that my son was kidnapped, and he still had the mind to tell me to come to New York because of business. Your son means nothing to him. Or you, Femi said dryly, emptying his glass and pouring another round. My son is my life, she screeched. Uncle, we should be talking about how to find Mike. When you find him, what do you intend to do? You are married to another man, remember? Leave that for me, Uncle. Mike does not even know I am married. You remember how secret the wedding was? Thank God Jolie wanted to conserve money. Few people know I am married to him. Thank God for private weddings and Greek islands. Arika raised an eyebrow without looking up. What a leech of a woman, she thought. You want to be married to the two at the same time? Are you normal? What gives you the impression Mike will want you? You never visited him in prison, not even once. Femi asked incredulously. I wasn't supposed to know where he was, Uncle. You're guilty for that. But you knew, didn't you? In fact, we chose the location together. I'm innocent, Uncle. You want us to count guilt and innocence? Is that what you want? Femi asked angrily. He wasn't afraid of her. She had done as many atrocities as him, if not more. Uncle, please don't get upset. She slumped into a single plush leather cow and sighed. I just need your help to get Mike back. I'll know how to sort things out. I don't want Jolie to come out here. He's already told me I have just a week to either come over to Hong Kong or he'll come and fetch me. I don't want him around just yet. What does he want you so desperately for? Femi asked. He thinks I'm cheating on him out here. Thinks my son's kidnap story is bullshit. Oh, Uncle, I don't want to talk or think about Jolie. Oh, God, help me. God! Arike snickered, unable to control her silence anymore. Auntie, Sandra jumped up suddenly as though she'd just seen the older woman. That reminds me, Mike's hand said, I gave two to you. Please, could you give me? Let me check people's numbers that you may be with. She asked excitedly. I deleted all the numbers. Arike replied, shocked. Just bring the handsets. Mike saves his most trusted friends' numbers in the archives. He called them emergency numbers. I thought he was silly, but see how things work. I gave one to my former house girl to use for business. Arike stammered. But you are using the other one. Let's check that one. Sandra wondered at the reluctance. Arike sat up suddenly. What was she to say? She was never good with lying, and her husband was staring down at her the way he did when he wanted to get her to do something. I returned it to Mike, she whispered. What? Sandra jumped up. Femi glared in disbelief. What? He mouthed. You know where he is all this time. You've seen him. How could you? Uncle, excuse me. Uncle, how could she do this? Sandra was berserk. I don't know where he is now. I went to Elisha shortly after I was released and bumped into him there. I just felt guilty about hiding his phone, so I gave him. Arike, that is silly. Did I hear about this trip to Elisha or that you saw Mike? Femi asked, closing up on her dangerously. She held the throw pillow closer and waited for the inevitable. He threw the remains of his wine on her face. Arike swallowed, sickened. Look, Uncle, that information is good enough, Sandra said. She wasn't going to break up a fight between them. She was selfish enough to think about only herself. I'd like to excuse myself. Arike stood up and quickly left the door. It could get worse if she stayed. At the end of the day, she will be hanging in the middle. I know that number. I have it in my phone, Sandra said, excited that it could be so easy to trace Mike. Oh God, thank you. I just pray he'll pick it up. Femi glared after his wife's retreating figure, knowing she was escaping his wrath and letting her get away with it. That ends chapter 36. I will stop here for today. We will continue with chapter 37 tomorrow. I wanted to talk to us briefly about this website I just discovered, and it's called Ulanzi. I put the link I put the link in the description. They have great discounts for you if you use my link to access the gadgets, cameras, and very nice gadgets that you can use at home, or for your parties, for your picnics, and if you want to do small recordings and things like that. So check out the link in the description. And there ends today's reading. See you tomorrow. We have just about like 11, 12 chapters left. I'm thinking we'll clear that off tomorrow and Wednesday, and we'll be done with Scent of Water. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, share, comment, like. Thank you. And there goes. Bye.